United Hour, your official Red Cafe podcast for all things Manchester United. I'm your host, Nick.
I'm Colm.
And I'm Jamie.
Yeah, we're literally like 30 minutes after the full-time whistle, after a day that's gone much better than most expected at the Manchester derby. I think a lot of people were not giving us any chance in this game. And yeah, obviously we're going to run down what happened in this match, kind of talk about what it means for the title, does it mean anything? And then we will look ahead now to AC Milan that we got on Thursday night, and then just need to have a chat about what it means for everything, and how come we can beat Manchester City and get nothing from the likes of Crystal Palace and West Brom. But that's what we're going to go deep into. But look, pre-match there was not a lot of confidence here. Obviously, City on going for like a record, what was it, 21st win in a row or something? We're then coming off the back of... I think that would that have been their 21st?
Or 22nd. I think it would have been the 22nd. They'd already done 21.
Yeah, exactly. We obviously had 3 0-0 draws in a row, which if already we were talking about we weren't really in the title race, definitely cemented that fact. But this obviously brings us back close to City, but there is still a big gap. But look, let's talk about the match first. I mean, I wasn't that confident, and even when I saw the lineup, I was possibly less confident because I really have not been expecting much from Martial. I knew Cavani was out. Obviously, we knew Pogba and the likes were injured. And I thought Ole might go with something different. I would have preferred Mason. It didn't fill me with confidence. But at the same time, I saw the odds and I saw 13-2 on us winning. And I said, look, that is too much for a Manchester derby, even when we've been even way, way worse than we are right now. And even when City was stronger, form goes out the window in these kind of games. So I shoved a few quid on us on that there, but didn't expect the start we had. I think it was Imran in our chat said, I've missed the start of this, what's happened with the penalty? But Colm, were you in your seat yet when everything kicked off there?
Yeah, I was pretty ready, but I wasn't even paying full attention. And then when the whistle went and it's Martial had fallen over, and I was like, oh, we got a penalty here, that's good. But it was a frantic start. I think the most impressive thing about that is when that throw-in happens, the press we put on them, and especially in the sort of first 10 to 15 minutes, kind of dulled after that, where City got a foothold in the game again. But the height of the press is what was really so good about it. It was Shaw was stepping out to press, Maguire was stepping out to press, Fred and McTominay obviously did a fantastic job. The strikers were actually all engaged with the press, and it was just a much more... we've kind of seen this with Ole, certainly in a lot of big games, where when we want to, we can really look like a very, very, very good pressing team. We just don't, we either choose not to or can't maintain it across all games, or can't employ it when we're kind of the favoured team or the better team, so it is odd. But in this game, the press in the first 10, 15 minutes I thought was fantastic, and a big reason why we really unsettled City, as well as them starting slowly. And obviously the goal was the perfect way to start that in the first minute.
Yeah, it really couldn't have gone much better for us at the start of this. Like I said, I was not that happy actually to see Martial in the starting lineup, but straight away is knocked out, and there's no doubt about it being a penalty. And it's the exact start we want. And that's been our problem time and time again in matches, that we don't get that first goal. Like I said, recently has been against teams where we're getting all the domination and the possession, whereas today it's a totally different kind of game. But Jamie, I think you'd put some money on it as well, hadn't you? But you'd gone for over 2.5 goals or something.
Yeah, I was the same as you.
So what, were you hoping City scored at the end then?
I was kind of hoping for another goal. Yeah, I was like, go on, just stick one of these in. I couldn't believe there wasn't more goals, but I suppose we'll come to that. But I was much the same. I saw that the odds on us on the betting platform I used, it was 6-1. So I coupled it with Bruno to score, which was magic after 60 seconds. But unfortunately, I just needed another goal there at the end. But I couldn't believe the odds on us getting into the game. I thought, I know they've won so many games in a row and what have you. They still seemed really long odds getting into the derby. But
I was really surprised by it as well, because we even mentioned at the end of the last podcast in that it just seemed like one of those times when one team's doing so well, the other team is struggling. They have injuries, which means we were definitely going to play a certain kind of way. That the way we played, I don't think is a surprise to anyone. The only real surprise is how well Martial played. I think everyone else, like that's a Wan-Bissaka performance against Sterling and City. Shaw was magnificent as he has been. Rashford looked dangerous on the breakaway, but gave it away quite a lot. Fred and McTominay worked hard. There's no big surprise in that, and obviously setting up with Dan James to work really hard. Given our injuries, the fact that Pogba isn't there, other players aren't available, that's the only way we were going to play. And I just felt that was likely going to do pretty well against City, as it has done. I mean, Ole's record over Guardiola is the best of anyone in world football, really, that's played him enough.
Yeah, basically.
So I was really surprised by those odds, because that just really seemed to me a very possible way. The other option is that City just dominate us. You don't get the break, you don't get the early goal, you don't convert the chances on the breaks, and City maybe look a bit sharper in front of goal, and the game can go differently, as we've seen against City. But there's always the chance that particular blueprint, like, that's locked in against City. That is the way we're going to play City pretty much forever, I would imagine, or at least the way the teams are at the moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's actually the fourth time Ole beats Pep. And like you say, there literally isn't anyone who's got as good a record against Guardiola. And it's the third time in a row we win at the Etihad. And I think it's something like only once in the last 6 matches we've had at the Etihad, we've actually lost to them. And it goes all the way back to 2016. So, yeah, we actually have a really good record in this game. So, yeah, like you said, those bookies odds, to me, seemed like a bit weird as well, which is why I did throw a bit of money on it. I will be totally honest and say I cashed out my bet after about half an hour, because as if it's not
half an hour
stress. Yeah, no, it seems a bit weak. I'm afraid. Yeah, but to be honest, it's as if it's not stressful enough watching the Manchester derby with like money on the line as well. I just said, listen, I'm going to take this cash, enjoy the rest of the game,
just so everyone can know where Nick's mind really is. He had a tenner on, so it wasn't exactly high stakes we're talking about here. Yeah. They had to cash out after half an hour.
Yeah, it's true. I'm not betting the mortgage here or anything. But yeah, look, I'll take that money off and enjoy the rest of the game. But yeah, look, as you say, Colm, it does seem weird with those odds, because we have got a good record in this game. We know as well that Ole did have a great big game record, although of course this season we've talked plenty about how that's gone out the window. I mean, the one interesting thing that I wanted to see pre-match, and maybe we don't really ever know what will happen, is how Guardiola was going to set up for it, because when we had this game at Old Trafford, he came very defensively. City did not play their normal game. They were a lot more cautious, and we played out a relatively boring 0-0. And we said at the time that they're giving us a lot of credit, a lot more respect. He's scared of our counter. City were not on that good form at the time, and they just kind of sat in, and it was kind of a stalemate draw. I don't, because we scored immediately, maybe what their game plan had planned went out the window anyway, so we don't really know. It's difficult to say whether they'd come and whether they were going to fight a lot more than that game. Who knows? Because, that obviously forced them to start coming at us, which again played into our hands. I mean, we could have been 2-0 up pretty early. Shaw had a pretty good chance as well.
Rashford. Shaw's up there. Manchester City can't play their way out of trouble. Luke Shaw, and almost wriggled away from Edison, who's a besieged goalkeeper. Not been used to this.
I think that was maybe one of those that just came a bit fast and he just swung a leg at it. But the start was fantastic. Like Colm's already said, even winning the penalty when City take the throw in, the minute the ball comes back into play, you've got 4 or 5 red shots really converging quickly on the ball, trying to win it. And it totally unsettled City for that first 15-20 minutes. They just couldn't get to grips with it at all. We were snapping into the tackles. We were being really aggressive, pressing really high. The centre-halves were actually stepping out with the ball, which was stretching the City front line a little bit and was actually allowing us to bypass their first line. It was very, very good. And the Shaw chance, I couldn't believe he didn't score really, but on reflection, when looking back at the replay, I did think it was maybe just one of those chances that came back at him, and all he can really do is just swing a leg at it and just try and maybe get the wee deflection to take it into one of the corners, and it didn't quite happen. It ended up straight at the keeper.
On his right, I think, as well.
Yeah, it was on his right foot as well. So it was maybe just one of those that was just swing a leg, see what happens. But it was just a cracking start. You couldn't believe what you were watching really for the first 15-20 minutes. So it was really, really good. Very good.
Yeah, and as I say, maybe you can believe it. The only reason we can't believe it is because we've been so kind of average.
So pedestrian at the start of a lot of games. That's the problem. Like, we're so pedestrian at the start of games so many times. And okay, yeah, the early penalty probably helps and then dictates what happens for the next 15-20 minutes. But even then, it was just so energetic. It was so energetic and so good.
Where's that energy when we're playing Everton or Southampton?
That's exactly
or West
what I mean.
No, to be fair, we played pretty well against Everton, but no, I mean, Palace,
until the last 20 minutes. But yeah,
Palace, West Brom, Sheffield United.
Even just more generally, in a certain sense, when you're picking a certain kind of team and going out with a certain kind of blueprint against City, it's just an easy thing to do in many ways, because the responsibility will never really be on us. We just have to go and work hard and hope that kind of the chances fall for us and we can unsettle them and then defend really well. And that's a very, it's an easier underdog tactic, I feel, in the same way that a lot of teams would come to United and just sit in and just think, if we can do this for 90 minutes, we're going to get one or two chances or whatever. And we did actually play a lot better today, I think, particularly after the second goal, where I think City's heads pretty much went down until the last sort of 10 minutes, and where they rallied a little bit. But I just feel like you should be able to put some of that off the ball energy and off the ball shape and press into all of your games when you don't have the ball, not just the games against City, when you have this very specific mission ahead of you of saying, right, look, obviously they're class on the ball. We expect them to have 60-70% possession, but we're going to hurt them and we're going to make them work for that possession. And we just don't do that in the rest of the game. So it is really strange. And obviously it's a different thing playing Newcastle or Sheffield United or whoever else, where you have, so much of the ball and are playing against a packed-in defence versus the space that our team gets against City. We obviously know how good we can be with space and on the counter-attack, but I think you have to maybe be a bit, more able to engineer those situations in those other games, because that's what I've seen that Liverpool side do so well, I think, for the last couple of years, is engineer those big open spaces even when teams are sitting in, and that's what's completely abandoned them this year, and I think that's sometimes where we struggle too with these packed-in defences. But it was great to see it today. You just don't want to only see it today,
We do, but earlier in the season, we were winning those games, even against the teams who were ssitting in. Maybe we weren't winning them convincingly every time we were going a goal down and then coming back, but we were winning those games. It's only been then in the last month, 2 months, where that's all dropped off, and especially in this run where it's always going to haunt us for the rest of the season. Sheffield United, West Brom, Crystal Palace, to come out of those 3 matches with only 2 points, and then of course there was that throwaway against Everton as well. But although that day we actually played pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we compare against Palace, the thing that day just wasn't happening was our passing was just awful. Even simple passes weren't coming, they weren't going. And then when they were going for often Bruno Rashford, they go for these kind of one-touch plays, which are often heels, flicks, things like that. And today, some of those things were coming off. Palace, none of that came off. But even worse than that was just simple layoffs, simple passes were just going astray. So
I think that's absolutely true, because again today, the confidence, even around the way we're playing it around the back, Lindelof distribution, Maguire's mostly very good. Just everyone seemed to have that little bit of confidence and that knowledge that when you're playing City, you really have to play it sharply. You can't just get away. Whereas I think sometimes it's we lull ourselves into a false sense of security against the teams where we do dominate the ball and think, we have all the time in the world and that you can just kind of amble around, and there isn't that same intensity that you have when you're playing in a big game, because you have to make that possession count, and that also the other team might be pressing you frantically, and you really have to, if you aren't super sharp on your basic passes and looking to progress the ball, then you'll go nowhere. So again, it's just about marrying those kind of two things up. But again, it's just one of those things that they're two completely different games of football. But you're absolutely right today. The passing was just so crisp and so sharp, even when there was a few times we couldn't get out, which is fair enough. That's just going to happen. But generally speaking, it was much more on point than lately.
Yeah, I mean, the only bit of the game where I said City did come in a lot more, and in fact, that's when I cashed out my bet. It was around from about the 25-minute mark where they started coming into it. We started the game brilliantly. First 20, 25 minutes, we were very good. Then from about 25 minutes to half-time, City did have quite a dominating kind of area of possession. They didn't create a huge amount. There was one kind of save, I remember Henderson from, I think, Zinchenko. But yeah, they were kind of playing a lot better for that section. But like I say, they didn't create that much, really. I mean, Jamie, were you worried there, or did you still feel pretty confident?
I wasn't worried. I was more frustrated because City did start coming into it. They started just passing the ball about the way they do, where they try it down one's flank, doesn't quite work, move it through the midfield to the other side quickly and try and make some openings. There wasn't really much of that. The thing that frustrated me, and I take Colm's point saying it was much better today, and it was, but just for 15, 20 minutes before half-time, the amount of times we gave the ball away was really frustrating, where we would win the ball either in a tackle or from a set piece or a goal kick, whatever it would be, and we would barely have the ball for more than 3 touches, 4 touches, and immediately the ball was going straight to Man City. It wasn't so much because I felt one of these was definitely going to go in. It was just more frustrating that we just had to hold on to the ball better instead of just losing it in contact, losing it by just poor passing, trying to. There was one in particular that was McTominay, and he tried to play some side-footed pass way out wide towards Rashford. There was about 3 City players in front of him. There was no way the ball was on, and he still tries it. And that he wasn't the only one, because Fred quite a few times gave the ball away and was trying to be a bit too fancy in possession. It was just frustrating because you were like, we can easily get in it here. We can easily get in at them here. If we just hold on to the ball and just be a wee bit smarter. There was so many opportunities.
I think that's in a big way down to maturity, which is something I do think this team still lacks, in that when you start at like breakneck speed and the whole plan is to go out and press and hit them on the counter, you could just see McTominay in his head thinking every time he got the ball, it was like a hot potato. You had to force it forward. And there is worth in that sometimes, because it might work occasionally. You know, you might find the right ball and set off a good counter-attack. You can't just keep doing it 10, 20 times when you're just giving them the ball back in very dangerous positions ultimately. And you know, I think, even though I just said everyone was playing it about quite nicely, probably the kind of exceptions, particularly in the first half, were Fred and McTominay. And I have a bit of sympathy for them because they both did such a great job off the ball. And in terms of the shape and the energy and the press and the combativeness and the amount of interceptions and battling that both McTominay and Fred did. McTominay, I still think, is a brilliant presence, works immensely hard and carries the ball extremely well. But on the ball passing, they were both pretty ropey at times. Certainly, you know, Nick, I don't know if you've had a look at the pass stat percentages, but I think Fred's was like 63% or something in the end of the first half, which for a midfielder, like, you know, it doesn't paint a good picture, you know. So
yeah, they did come kind of back in a bit better in the second half. Fred's at
as I say, I think
McTominay at 80%.
I think after the second goal, City's head dipped, and then we were playing with so much confidence that I think it was able to kind of patch over a lot of those things. But I also have a bit of sympathy because I do think when you go out with this particular tactic and that's kind of your bread and butter and you're just going to say we're just going to break on them, you can begin to force it a bit too much. And I think just a wee bit of maturity to realise, right, well, look, we're 1-0 up, we've done the thing we want to do, you know, we can be a bit more selective now, and maybe it is a bit more important just to keep the ball for 3 or 4 minutes rather than try and score 8 goals when, you know, there really aren't the chances there. And I think you're right, Jamie, if you kind of just slow it down a wee bit at the start, you might find that the openings are actually easier found, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if you, as you say, those passing stats, yeah, they were giving it away. I mean, McTominay was very deep, deeper than usual. And, you know, if you look at our average position chart, McTominay and Wan-Bissaka on that right side are both very, very deep, you know, much deeper than you normally, close to like Victor Lindelof, basically, you know, all bunched up there. But that's why, you know, we saw very little from Raheem Sterling today. On the left side, we were a bit open because obviously Luke Shaw was getting forward, whereas Wan-Bissaka was just purely playing defence today. He barely even got out of the half. But, you know, that worked out for us. Whereas, you know, on the left side is where we did have some chances. And yeah, as we already mentioned, Luke Shaw had one shot. There was a couple of other great runs he had. And of course, second half starts brilliantly for us. And we're 2-0 up, you know, and City probably have had that halftime talk from Guardiola saying, look, we're going to come back. We've been playing well. And that's the actual killer time, killer goal for us to kill that game straight off, basically.
De Gea has become a father the last couple of days. In Spain. Here go his teammates he's left behind for the derby, and Shaw scores! Goodness me, it's Luke Shaw from Manchester United.
What a moment for Luke Shaw. He's been Manchester United's best player by a mile this last month. I thought on Wednesday night at Sellers Park he was the only one who showed up, and today a big moment for him.
Shaw's had this outstanding season. I'd been having a bit of a debate in another group where, you know, they throw out these things, put out your combined Man United, Man City team. And I was getting a lot of like pelters saying, oh, red tinted glasses, because I'd put out a team that had 5 Manchester United players in it. And of course, City are playing way better than us. But as far as I'm concerned, we've still got a lot of very good players. And I had Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw in my team. For me, Shaw is like non-negotiable. He's had such a good season. And I was surprised that people were like, shocked I'd put Harry Maguire in the team, seeing as, he's picked regularly for England over John Stones, even though he's having a decent season. Then for me, after that, Rashford and Bruno are shoe-ins. And then, all right, I did actually put Paul Pogba in my team, which maybe is debatable. City do have like an embarrassment of riches in midfield, especially, yeah. But yeah, I did have 5 United players in there.
No room for Dean Henderson, no?
No, actually, yeah, I started off with Henderson. But yeah, look, we do need to talk about Henderson because he's now definitely going to be getting a run in the team. He's been playing like 1 game a week recently because we've had a lot of cup matches, but in most of those matches he's had very little to do, so hasn't really had that much chance to show. But he did, of course, make that one really good late save the other day that could have saved us at least a point against Palace. But now, yeah, David De Gea is off back in Spain on his paternity leave, and because of coronavirus laws and quarantine and all that, he's not going to be available for at least a couple of weeks. They're talking about potentially like another 4 matches or something like that, which is pretty crazy. I know, Colm, you've been waiting for this all season, right, for Henderson to get his chance.
Yeah, I've been tracking that pregnancy pretty closely, hoping that we'd get at it. It was actually a bit of a surprise to me, and I do think it's a good decision. Obviously, the coronavirus thing, if it weren't for that, you'd probably have him back for maybe miss 1 more game and then be back after that. But I am thankful because he kind of left a bit abruptly and they were a bit quiet about it, and I had sort of seen that she was about to drop and was just hoping that nothing was wrong, but there is a healthy child there, so it's all good news, and that's fantastic. So hopefully hopefully he loves fatherhood and takes all the time he needs in Spain. But no, Henderson just deserves a run. It's just a tricky situation. Obviously, my thoughts on De Gea are well established at this point. I don't think any of our listeners need to hear me go on about it anymore, particularly when he's not even in the country. But you'll never know with Henderson until you play him, and it's tricky to manage 2 very, very, very good goalkeepers in one club. That's not an ideal situation, really, as much as it seems like something you would want in every other position. Oddly enough, in the goalkeeper position, it doesn't actually really serve anyone, because Henderson starts to speak about moving on if he doesn't, get commitments around his future and desperately wants to play now. And you can see that confidence from him when he plays. You can see that he desperately wants to imprint himself on the team. That he wants to make his presence felt, from a vocal standpoint, from corners, from throw-ins. He just wants to be involved from coming off his line. And I think he's been very good. As you said, late save against Crystal Palace. I think in the cup games he has had very little to do, but that's encouraging because when he has been called in upon to make saves, he's looked sharp and done that. Whereas, the plague of previous United keepers that didn't quite make the grade was always that, it's different. Take Thomas Kuszczak or Ben Foster, who look brilliant at smaller clubs when they're being peppered with shots. It's different when you don't have anything to do for 40, 50, 60 minutes, and then you have to kind of replicate that same save. So it's good to see that he maybe has that in the locker. But I thought against Palace and today he was excellent. I really, really couldn't ask for anything more. It's so nice to see the confidence he has taking the ball in the air, and I don't even think he's had any really difficult ones. City aren't going to pressure you in the same way that Burnley might or someone else, and yet it's still maybe something that you wouldn't have seen with De Gea, so that's awesome to see. You can definitely hear him, and I think his distribution is good, although he does tend to just hoof it a wee bit as well sometimes, which I actually don't mind, because I think he can overcomplicate things.
It's actually one thing that, I always check those passing accuracies, and he's actually down at 45% today. You never see any of our players, but it's partly because they'd obviously had the instruction that they weren't doing that play out from the back. It's a thing that I always get really concerned about anyway.
I still thought today we did it a bit too much.
6-yard passes, from De Gea to Maguire. I never like it. I always feel uncomfortable. I mean, generally, it's not caused a problem for us. It's not really been a big issue, but I always feel uncomfortable just because I'm an old school centre back myself. Yeah. I was never would have imagined playing in that way.
Equally, I think with that, sometimes it's not even around the De Gea, Lindelof, Maguire part that I feel uneasy. It's when it goes into McTominay and Fred on the turn and suddenly they're getting pressed that I think sometimes as well it doesn't necessarily suit us as much as we think it does. But he does seem a wee bit, his feet seem good, but he does seem a wee bit more reserved. But he seems to make up his mind quickly. If he's going to hoof it, he just hoofs it. I think the worst thing for a keeper in that situation is indecision and thinking, oh, should I or shouldn't I? Whereas at least if you're going to hoof it, just do it. Don't think about it. Don't try and beat a man. Don't make your mind up in the last minute. Pick your thing and do it. And the distribution for the Shaw goal, I mean, that's fantastic. That is genuinely fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that goal. I love that goal so much.
It reminded me of Peter Schmeichel, that, that's the kind of thing he used to do. Big long throws into the other half, getting attacks going.
He ran through the options as well, because he actually waited a wee while. It wasn't like a breakaway counter after their free kick. First of all, he claimed the free kick in swinger outswinger from Zinchenko, took it really well, and then he waits and kind of looks around. He kind of fakes like he's going to roll it out to Lindelof, but City are kind of still two stepped up, and then he sort of sees Mahrez, I think, is like drifted in a wee bit, and he just has it over him, but again right in front of Shaw to run onto, and that makes the whole, like, Shaw's touch is fantastic to take that on the chest and go past Cancelo, who Lord knows what Cancelo is doing there. It's a horrendous piece of defending. But Shaw's touch and the fact that the ball from Henderson enables him to take that touch and then suddenly be in so much space, it's just such a good goal.
No, yeah, brilliant. And like I said, the return from Shaw this season after offering very little for years has been great. But just to go back quickly to Henderson, De Gea, I mean, I do wonder, and one thing that I think a lot of people have been saying is maybe there's been question marks over Ole on things like tactics and whatever, but yeah, I think unfairly so. But on the man management side, he's done so well on so many occasions, players like Pogba or whatever, who was like coming in and out. But yeah, on this Henderson one, I wonder if he has kind of almost encouraged De Gea that say, listen, you take all the time you want, because it gives him an easy way to bring Henderson in.
Possibly.
Although I do also think there's been a couple of times in the season where De Gea has messed up that he could have given Henderson easily a chance, and he hasn't.
I see Ole has having tremendous amounts of loyalty to his players, and I think that's a good thing. I think 99% of the time it's a good thing, don't get me wrong. There are occasions, and this is probably the fickle football fan in me, where I think it's too much. I felt that way with Martial. I kind of felt that way at the start of the team sheet. Today, even with Martial, I've certainly felt that way with De Gea, because like, I'm a big believer in meritocracy. I think if you're not earning it, it doesn't matter how much you should be you're getting paid or what you've done in the last year or two. And I appreciate experience matters, but I think when someone's kind of displaying that they're not actually at the required level, and there's people behind them who could be, I have a big issue with that. But, even that same loyalty today to Martial has paid off in dividends, and I think that's a performance that Martial will hopefully take huge confidence from, and my God, do we need him to do that right now, because Cavani's injured again, Rashford's going to go for surgery, we're thin on the ground again, and if Martial today was excellent, and if he takes that kind of confidence and form into the next few games, that's huge for us. So again, you'd have to give credit to Ole there, because there'd be a lot of people today, I think, who would be groaning at seeing Martial start that game, even though I think it was the correct decision. Even if he's out of form, I think it's a bit of a big ask for Greenwood,
No, yeah, I do understand that. I mean, I don't know why, maybe we'll go to this too much, but I actually find it a little bit weird that De Gea goes back to Spain to have his baby and things like that. Maybe again it's like old school, but for him to go on missing over there, I mean, there's perfectly good hospitals in Manchester, and I also, his girlfriend, as I understand, has actually been living in Manchester and has then decided to make this decision to go out there. I mean, I'm pretty sure the likes of Fergie and all that would not have been happy. I mean, just imagine if Roy Keane, if like somebody came to him and said, "Yeah, I'm going to be missing for the next month because I'm going back to Spain," and he was just like, "Look," I was like, "What on earth?" I mean, especially like, my daughter's born in Withenshaw Hospital, Manchester, in the maternity suite inaugurated and used by Nemanja Vidic. Downstairs is actually the Rio Ferdinand sponsored ICU unit. So where better to have your child than in the Nemanja Vidic and Rio Ferdinand suites. But anyway, like I say, side note, bit of a tangent, but yeah, for me, slightly weird, especially in the middle of like COVID times, to say, yeah, I'm flying off and I'm going to be missing for a while. But yeah, it's his loss and it's Henderson's chance. So let's see him take his chance. He's going to get a few games coming up now. But at 2-0, we were comfortable after that, weren't we, Jamie? I mean, City made a couple of changes to try and change. Foden came in. I was actually really happy that Foden didn't start this game. I think he's a player that's really quite exciting, and I was quite happy to see him not there. But they always have so many options where De Bruyne is back in there, whether it's Mahrez, Sterling, whatever. But yeah, Walker, Foden come back in. They started playing a little bit better, but still, we seemed pretty comfortable, I thought.
Yeah, I thought we were comfortable as well. And I agree about Foden. I did expect him to start just because I think he's such a good player, and over the last 6 weeks or so he's proved how good he is as a player, so I was kind of surprised not to see him. I was quite happy not to see him as well from the start of the game, but we just, unlike in the first half where we pressed well and played well for 20 minutes and then retreated a wee bit, went into the shell, and City started growing into the game. This half, the minute we got the second goal, we just seem to have chance after chance after chance for about 15 minutes. And okay, some of them were half chances. Like there was the one where the cross comes in, it takes the deflection off Diaz, I think, goes straight up in the air. It comes down and Martial doesn't quite get the header right. That was one chance. Not long after that, he's then got a massive chance where McTominay's fouled on the edge of the box, but the ball goes through to Martial, so they play on. It's a huge chance one-on-one with the goalie, and it's a good save by the goalie, but Martial should bury it, really. So he's had two big chances. He did play excellent. He was fantastic. I agreed with him being man of the match, but he could have had one of those chances for sure. I just thought for most of the second half, maybe until the last 10 minutes, we were in control. The players were confident. We were passing it well. We didn't look rushed or unsure of ourselves at all. Even with the changes, there was only maybe one or two really good crosses from Walker that maybe kind of you're thinking, oh, if Aguero's maybe playing or if Jesus is getting into those positions instead of Sterling, they maybe get a goal. But even then, I was still confident enough that if needed, we were going to just put something together, get back up front and make another chance, because I've only named 3 chances there, but there was so many in the second half. Either we engineered a chance on goal, or it was a breakaway and it was the final ball that let us down, or the final decision that let us down. I thought Rashford must have been a bit more hurt through the second half, because there was a chance where the ball landed to him and he's maybe 15 yards out to the left-hand side of the box, and it's just tailor-made for him to just come onto the ball with his right foot and just hit it at the goal, and he just passes it inside the box to just nobody in particular. And I think even like on commentary, Martin Tyler and Gary Neville couldn't believe it, because it was just set up just to hit at the goal, and he didn't. And then he runs back, and when he puts the tackle in on Mahrez, when he's trying to break away, that's where he gets injured. So I was maybe just thinking it might not have just been that particular incident, because it was a bit interesting just seeing him just not go for that shot when we know fine well he's got no qualms at all with having a shot on target when it presents itself. So comfortable until the last 10, but even during the last 10, while they started putting crosses into the box, putting a few more chances together, I never really felt like we were under siege, if we were really threatened. I thought the players, as I said, were confident, and I thought more than anything, the rest of the second half was a thoroughly professional performance.
Yeah, that was the only negative point in the second half, was Marcus Rashford going out injured. As you said, there was like that breakaway where actually City were in a dangerous position. We were slow to come back, and Rashford comes back with a really there were 4-on-3 on us on that counter, and Rashford makes actually a really good interception, but yeah, ends up limping out. And there has, of course, been this news that he's going to need shoulder surgery at some point, maybe after the Euros. And yeah, that's for both Lindelof and Rashford have been playing with these kind of niggly injuries for months and months now, and that is, I still find it, I've been going on a lot about how I think Ole, the only place where he has failed recently has been managing the squad, managing players' minutes. There's certain players who've definitely played far too much, and for me that is one of the major reasons why we have ended up dropping points in this kind of period where we've been playing twice a week, Europa League, FA Cup, and it's often been after kind of hard midweek games where we've ended up throwing away points in the league on the weekend. So yeah, let's see. Hopefully Marcus's injury is not that bad, but we'll find out that in the coming days. But yeah, let's talk about Anthony Martial, because I was not that happy to see him in the starting lineup. I was actually still quite surprised that a lot this week I've had a couple of debates with people on Twitter who are still constantly big fans of Martial, whereas for me he's been absolutely awful nearly all year. Does not deserve to be starting, and I think he's lucky just because Cavani's been out and there's been a couple of other injuries. Even Pogba even sometimes can come into an attacking position, and he's been given chance after chance, and I think not delivered for weeks and weeks and weeks. But today, yeah, he did play well. I did not think that he deserved to be man of the match. I would have given it to Luke Shaw, but Martial's hold at play today was brilliant, and in fact, he's got 95% possession accuracy, which for like somebody playing in an attacking area is brilliant. And he even had quite a lot of touches on the ball, as many as Marcus, more than Daniel James, and hardly gave the ball away all match. So in that kind of back to goal way, he was always playing like he wasn't playing that forward striker. Again, if you look at the average position charts, both James and Rashford are playing further forward than Martial, so he's almost playing a kind of false nine position. But did it really well, holding the ball, bringing in play, and if he can do that, at least I don't mind it. But I haven't seen him doing even that. For sure he's not been providing the goals and assists. But recently, I don't know what you think, Colm, but I'm surprised that there are still a lot of people, like I said, who've been saying that Martial has to play still our best forward. He brings in so much play. But
I agree with you. That's not, those people haven't been living in reality, I don't think, in certainly this season. You can point back to how he played last season and say, I think there's still that player in there, then I can accept that. But at a certain point, when you've seen 28 weeks of not that, you have to accept maybe that you're not going to see it again and all that kind of stuff. I think a big part of it today, you're absolutely right, and the average position is very telling, because a game that has lots of space and where we play on the counter actually suits Martial down to the ground, particularly when you have speedy wingers outside of him, because he's actually playing that false nine role and dropping in really deep behind Bruno often. And the centre-backs then don't necessarily follow him out the whole way, and that allows him to come and pick up that ball and kind of turn on it and have a wee bit more space and body them like he was, and just looks so much better. Then you see the kind of him using his strength really well, but keeping these really silky touches and not letting the ball roll away from him. When the centre-backs do follow him really far into our own half, sometimes he's then able to sort of roll them and turn them with unexpected, brilliant feet. And that works extremely well. And it did today. Like, he also won the penalty, obviously, which is not an insignificant thing. He did miss two gilt-edged chances for me, the header and then the one from like 6 yards out. Both I think he should do much better with. But generally speaking, as a performance, I thought it was excellent. I do think all those things just go away when you're playing two banks of four, or you're playing a team that is not giving you that space and whose centre-backs are happy just to kind of stand on top of you all game, or any kind of defensive player is able to stand on top of you, and you're pushed further up the pitch, which means when he's dropping in, he's then dropping in and picking it up, but there's no space behind him to move into, and there's no runs coming from behind him, and it all gets very pedestrian. That's where Martial really, really struggles, and we've never really found a way to either get him over that or create chances for him in that kind of game. And that's why I think in large parts all the games he's played have been those types of games where he's looked awful. I think when he has a lot of space and when we can get him the ball in these kind of dangerous attacking transitional phases, and he's able to drop into that false nine position without a centre-back really contesting him in the way that a centre-back will if he's playing against Sheffield United and he's just camped out on the 18-yard line, yeah, of course he's going to look good because he's a brilliant footballer when he wants to be. It's just always with Martial involving him in the ways that he wants to be involved, because he's not going to be a player who goes and does it a different way, or does it through hard work, or does it through being clever or something like that. It's always, he's very much a purist when it comes to like that kind of thing. So in that sense, I regretfully think he'll kind of regress again if we don't change the way we play and he doesn't change the way he plays when we face teams that deny us space. I think you'll just see kind of the same thing you've seen for most of the year, unfortunately. But as I said previously, he was excellent today, and if he takes that confidence in, it might change things, and some of the dribbles and finishes that haven't been falling for him at all season might just start to drop, and particularly for strikers, a few goals and a bit of confidence can be completely life-changing in terms of performances. So that's the hope, because the front four is looking pretty thin, so we need him now to do something this season that he hasn't done so far.
Yeah, and he has really been, for me, the biggest disappointment of the season. I mean, I had such high hopes for him this year after a good year last season. I even had a bet with somebody about how many goals he was going to score this year, and I'll definitely be paying out on that because it's nowhere near it.
Lucky you cashed out after 30 minutes for £3 extra.
Yeah. At least I can cover that bet, as I said. Like, Martial has really been the big disappointment of the year for me. I thought that last season was this kind of transition into forward, and this was the season where he was going to come and say, yeah, I am that number 9,
Yeah.
and that he was easily going to get to 20 goals, maybe 30 goals. But yeah, even if he gets to 10, we're going to be happy. But yeah, look, if he can play like that, whether he scores or not, he's doing good work for the team and is making the difference. So yeah, fair enough. Let's hope we see more of that. But yeah, I think I kind of agree with you there. It is different when we're playing these other teams. And I think, I don't know who it was, I think it might have been the West Brom game a couple of weeks ago where, now because there's no crowd, we hear so much more of what managers and players are saying to each other. And there was Ole was absolutely screaming at him saying, move, you need to move more. And, it's a big problem there often. So I do think sometimes there's unfair criticism of him, and it's something more about his kind of body language and style that people call him a lazy player, which sometimes I think is not right. But yeah, there is times where you want to see a bit more movement, and it's what we said, that when Cavani comes in, you see that more like number 9 movement that we don't always see from a Martial. But the big problem now, Cavani is starting to become a bit of an injury issue. We've just not seen enough of him in general. Again, now he's out now. We don't know how long for, and that's kind of been a very stop-start season for him, which is why even though he's not on form, Martial keeps getting chance after chance to turn it around. And yeah, look, if he can do, let's see where we go from there. I did want to talk a bit more about what this result means in the more grand scheme of things, because after the last game, I know that you guys were very, very disappointed and negative, which is normal because you'd recorded after that awful 0-0 performance against Palace. But yeah, Colm, you were saying, look, I'm now worried that by the end of this month we might be out of the top 4. So obviously this result is massive in that, because Leicester had gone back above us, and Chelsea are looking on decent form. Everton have got a game in hand, have been in pretty good form. The one great thing is Liverpool keep being absolutely useless. So yeah, that's the one brilliant thing that we can keep holding on to. I think, what was it, 6 home losses in a row, like first time in their history, and not even a goal to show any of them. And in fact, the last game before that they didn't win was a 0-0 with us, that at the time we were pretty happy with. And now you look back and say, well, everyone else has beaten them. We didn't really do well enough.
We should have beat them that day as well. There was 2 massive chances.
Pogba and Bruno both had huge. Alisson.
It was massive chances.
Yeah, look, that's it. Like I say, that's the last time they didn't lose at home. But yeah, we're going to talk now. Obviously, we've got AC Milan coming up on Thursday, and then after that is West Ham, who are also just in and around that kind of top 4 race, amazingly. I do understand the worry, because this month, we said it on the podcast before, was going to be absolutely vital. And it looked like Palace was the easy game that we had this month, and we only managed to get 0-0. But that's the typical kind of United style, that we draw that and then win the City game. We're now going to be going to the 2 AC Milan games with West Ham in the middle. And I mean, the problem now is, look, we're 11 points behind City still. So you can't really talk about being in the Champions Challenge. And, that is the big disappointment for me, because I've said all season that I wanted to focus on the league. I was actually pretty ready to throw away the Europa League. For me, it's something that's just going to actually constantly cause us trouble with our league form. But since now we're not going to win the league, that becomes more important. I wanted to stay in with City, and I think if we'd played weak teams in these cups, we might have gone out, but I think we'd be a lot closer to City. But now we're not. So yeah, he has to go for these cups. And then the question basically is what is going to be now an acceptable season? What is your expectation, Com? Like I said, the last one you said, look, I'm worried about going out of top 4. It's still a worry. It's, we're not clear of anybody. It's all still bunched up. But yeah, the question to you is like, what do you think will be an acceptable season now?
Well, I think it's tough because it's where you view it from. If you had asked me 4 or 5 weeks ago, I would have said we should be comfortably finishing second. Like any kind of slip down from, it should be us and City, a little bit of a gap, and then everyone else. And with our recent form, that's just slipped away. Now we might turn that around and reestablish that. But I really thought from the position we were in that anything other than a very convincing second place would be a little bit of a red flag. And I agree with you, now that the league does look a bit chucked in, you kind of look to those cups, and particularly the Europa. I think the draw against AC Milan has kind of revived my interest in that competition, because it feels like a big draw. It feels like 2 big games, even though Milan aren't, it's not AC Milan of old, shall we say. It's not Manchester United of old either, really, but it does feel like a bigger tie, and that kind of revives my interest. I think we should be looking to do very well in Europa, and hopefully stick in with the other ones. But it's tough. I don't want to see us embroiled in a top 4 battle. That would be a huge red flag for me, and the reason, obviously, why I said that at the end of the last pod was that if we hadn't have won today, Leicester remain above us. Chelsea, if they win, would have only been a point behind us. Everton could have gone above us if they win both games, and West Ham could have gone level with it. So and we play West Ham and then I think Leicester next in the league. So this is March is a defining month, I think, for this season, because I think if we do well against West Ham and do well against Leicester, those are essentially 6 pointers, and that would, for me, probably cement us, barring a disaster in the last sort of 8 games.
The Leicester game is actually a cup game at the end.
Oh, is that the cup one? And then we played them again near the end of the season?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then we've actually got, in the league after that, it's going to be Brighton and then Spurs. So yeah, that's our run. We've got AC Milan twice with West Ham in the middle. Then it's Leicester in the cup, and then Brighton and Spurs in the league. But yeah, the month of March is the crazy one. Like I said, those 2 Milan games, and I still have an issue with this Europa League. Look, I would love to win it. It's great, but we're still going to have another 7 games to go if we want to win this.
It's just too long.
That's the problem. This travel, that Thursday, Sunday schedule.
We're Thursday, Sunday now for the rest of March, I think. That's just it.
Yeah, we are.
The biggest problem is with the Europa League, right? When you qualify either out of the group of the Europa League stage in the first half of the season, or you come out the Champions League and drop down into the Europa League, there's a last 32. So you play a last 32, then a last 16. Before, and you can even tell, because of the way they have to format it, because of how many teams the last 16 of the Champions League go through, it's just bizarre to me. It really is that there's that many teams, so they constantly have to rush, play 2 legs of the last 32, one after the other. You get a 1 week break, and then immediately it's another 2 European games. It's far too many. And while that might be more acceptable in a normal season, I cannot understand why they have insisted that it's 2 legs. I get the money involved and everything like that, but purely from a player welfare point of view, the fact that there is a pandemic still, there's massive issues with travel. We've seen Arsenal and Benfica, when they played their 2 games, neither were in their home country. They had to go and play the game in Greece. Yeah. Surely these knockout stages, even to the quarterfinals, make them one-legged. Just make them one-legged and just say, right, 1 leg, done. You move on, you get a 2 week break, and then...
I would have much preferred that.
Yeah, I think we've all said that already. It's what it should have been, but it's not, and it's all about TV.
It's also hilarious to still have home and away goals when there's some teams playing 2 away fixtures, literally 2 away fixtures, and still being subject to home and away goals.
AC Milan have only gone through the last round on away goals against Red Star Belgrade. They're actually in decent form-ish in the league. They're second to Inter Milan at the moment. Their form, like I say, it's been patchy, but they are second in the league at the moment. Zlatan is going to be injured, which is kind of a shame in a way. It would have been nice just to see him, whatever, but at the same time, it's not like he's getting any welcome home from the fans at Old Trafford or anything, because there's not going to be anybody there.
I'm a bit gutted about it, to be honest. I have to say. I did love Zlatan, so I'm a bit...
I'm not. You were looking forward to see him.
Obviously, it's totally different. There's no fans in the stadium and all that, but I was looking forward to possibly just seeing the chance of us playing against Zlatan, so I was a bit disappointed by that.
Honestly, I'm not. I think the man is an absolute balloon, and he only serves as... Okay, he's still performing at a high level. Don't get me wrong, he's a brilliant footballer, but he's a spectacle. It would just be all about Zlatan. It would be Zlatan returning to United. He'd probably score a last minute winner or something, a bicycle kick or something, and then do some daft celebration and look like he's, sipping the Kool-Aid of his own.
It is actually quite amazing that he's still going. It's amazing that he is still going, because when he left us, went out to the MLS, then you kind of thought, that's it. Maybe he'll play in America. I don't know if he wants to go and play in China. Who knows? But didn't really expect him to come back and really play week in, week out. And I
just think, Diego Dallo just scored an absolute peach today, and that Lukaku, Zlatan, Sanchez, Darmian, it just exposes to me again that Ashley Young, that Serie A is just in a dire situation at the moment, with the quality of its league. Now, those are big words before we have to play Milan twice here, obviously. So hopefully I won't regret that, but come on, that's desperate. None of those players.
I expect us to actually win both legs. I know they're doing well in the league and what have you, but I expect us to win both legs.
My only concern, and it kind of comes back to the next question now, in terms of what the expectations are, my expectations 4 or 5 weeks ago with everyone fit were pretty high. But now it's very difficult for me to say because, I take it Rashford's waiting to the end of the year to get the surgery. I mean, he now has this what looked like a little ankle issue there from today. Cavani can't stay fit. Van der Beek's out. We don't know when he's coming back. Pogba, we don't know when he's coming back. It looks like we just have Matic, Fred, McTominay, and that's it in the midfield.
Even Mata, somebody who might have come in.
Mata, we can't see him. De Gea is off swan around Spain, much to Nick's ire. And, you're looking at a bench now that has Ahmad and Shortiri on it, which, to me, particularly in a derby today, it's mad how quickly we've gone from deep squad to bare bones. And I just think, unfortunately, that might have a bigger impact on the end of our season, and we'll then regret drop points when we had all our good players, but you can't really hold, that's something we just have to deal with, but it's not really, that tempers my expectations a little bit, because I think we might run into a bit of a sticky patch with the number of games and the number of injuries we have.
Well, that is my big worry, and it's been my worry for a couple of months now. It's why, I always put out on Twitter, what was going to be my lineup, and every time we have a cup match, I'm rotating 5 or 6 players, and every time Ole puts out a very strong team, even when we're 4-0 up against bloody Real Sociedad.
Literally every single time that happens as well, you say to us, but this time he's going to rotate.
No,
he isn't. Literally, it's been 2.5 years now, and he never does.
But that day, when it was 4-0 up, at Real, I said, this day, surely, the reserves are playing. And then, you realise...
Bruno plays 90 minutes.
Day, but he brings Rashford on at half-time. It's insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, exactly.
And Wan-Bissaka played that day. But as I say, for me, it's absolutely linked to why we've then thrown away points in the league. That there's players who... And you look at... I saw it the other day, it's the table of the most minutes played in the Premier League this season. 5 of the top 6 players are Manchester United players. It's like
Rashford, Maguire, Bruno, Wan-Bissaka.
Maguire, Bruno, I think, Wan-Bissaka, and I think maybe Lindelof, I think was the 5th one even. And there's somebody from Leicester maybe who was the only other player in there. And, that for me has been the biggest problem, and it's my biggest criticism of Ole. I've always been very supportive of him, big fan. Even when we weren't doing well, I was still saying he needs to be given a chance. But that is where I do have an issue. I think he's not using the squad enough. I think he plays players into the ground, and he'd done it last year, but we kind of said, look, we didn't have much of a squad. He didn't have that many choices, because if he was resting players, it meant Andreas Pereira was playing, or a woefully out of form Jesse Lingard was playing, and you were like, well, look, he hasn't, what can he do? He has to play these players. Whereas this season, the likes of Van der Beek, Tuanzebe, Williams, even Mata could have played much more minutes to give other players rests. And as I see now, I'm sure if we put out our best team against AC Milan, we can beat them. But I think we'll end up maybe regretting it then on the weekend. We'll play West Ham, who've had a whole week off after that. And the same, we'll go and play Leicester in the Cup, who won't have played midweek. And each time we'll be playing teams who are going to be fresh, whereas we're going to be flying out to Milan one time and have a game in the middle. And you can't just expect to roll on every time when other teams are having that freshness break. And there has to be rotation. There has to be more changes in there. But I like I said, this month I don't see where there can be if we want to progress in these cups. And because now we have pretty much let the league go, even with today's win, those cups do become more important. I would say that if we finish second, I would still say it's a decent season. It is progress to me, because we haven't finished top 4 twice in a row since Alex Ferguson retired, which is absolutely mental for a club like Manchester United. But those are the facts. We haven't actually had 2 top 4 finishes in a row for 7 years now. So even doing that is already progress. But it's not something you're going to get excited about, finishing second, especially if you're finishing second by more than 10 points.
And you're 5 points better off than last year. It does seem slightly glacial given the squad that we have and the funds that are available and all that kind of stuff. But I agree, it is progress. Whether it's rampant enough, I'm not sure. But that's my thing with Ole. I don't think he'll end up ever net negative. Do you know what I mean? I think there'll always be a positive there. It's whether that positive year on year will ever be enough, to kind of get us the big things,
Yeah, and of course, if it's second and you win a cup, then it's a good season. I mean, even if you come third, to be honest, after that, if you're 10 points behind City, if you come third or fourth and win a cup, then that's, to be honest, probably...
I would take 4th and a cup over 2nd and no cup.
I
agree with that.
Every day of the week.
Trophy this year.
I would agree. I would put 2nd and being close to City ahead of it. If we would have finished the season within
5
6 points or something like that, then I would say, listen, I would put that ahead of winning actually one of those cups. And some people would argue with that and say, no, look, second place, you're still a loser. Yeah, why would you? You'd rather win a cup. No, I've had these kind of discussions.
No, I agree. It was just the way you said it.
I kind of understand like the rationale as well, and yeah, it's right at the end of the day. But just because we've not had any consistency in the league, for me this year, that was the most important, and that was the other reason
actually
why.
In a title race in the last weeks of the season is a good thing. It has much more worth than an FA Cup, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. Whereas I know other people wouldn't.
If we're going to be targeting a trophy, I would rather win the FA Cup, and I wonder what you guys would pick. Would you rather win the Europa League?
Oh, I'd rather win the Europa. Don't really care about the FA Cup.
I'd rather win the Europa, but there's only
Exactly,
3 games for us to win the FA Cup. We have to go through 7 matches to win the Europa League. Plus travel, plus a Thursday schedule, which is why I was ready to sacrifice the Europa League last time round.
However, you would anticipate you're going to play better teams in the FA Cup than you're going to probably have to play in Europa.
Well, but we have drawn AC Milan and, even Real Sociedad. They're pretty good. We could have played, much weaker teams. But yeah, it's the way the draws have gone.
What I'm saying is we're not City, so we're obviously going to get, City.
Yeah, the way Ole's luck goes, every time we get literally like... Oh, yeah, it is like that. Because I remember looking at the Europa League draw and, last round, Real Sociedad were pretty much the most difficult team we could have got because it was seeded. So, on the other side of the draw, they were the most difficult team. And this time as well, I think it was like basically Ajax or AC Milan were the most difficult options we could have got, and we got AC Milan. Look, and we said it in the last couple of pods as well. It does give you that feeling of Champions League. It is a kind of big name. Both teams were kind of fallen giants in a way, but we're both second in the league at the moment. And it does remind you, in fact, last time we played AC Milan was back in 2010 Champions League. We actually won both legs, 4-0 and I think 3-2 in Milan.
Rooney scored about 3 headers over the 2 legs. 2 of them were brilliant headers as well in the San Siro.
Yeah.
I hope we go through just so we can draw Rangers in the next round.
Congratulations, Rangers.
Yeah, it's mad up here. There's fireworks and everything going off at the moment. But yeah, it was good to have that confirmed today.
Yeah, they're still running. And who are Rangers playing in the Europa?
Sparta Prague. I think the away leg might be difficult, but they are playing well. So that'll be interesting to go alongside our game on Thursday. But I don't know. I would rather win the FA Cup purely because it is less games. But I was excited by purely seeing the draw against AC Milan because it is that more of a Champions League feel. Yeah, okay, both teams haven't been great at all over the last however many years, but it's still a fairly decent draw to get in terms of big names, makes it a bit more appealing.
The only thing I find with the FA Cup is, if you beat City in the final, then I'd want to win the FA Cup. That's a big thing. That's really good. Or if it's Chelsea or Liverpool or something, I don't even know who's left in the FA Cup, but it can be the opposite of that as well. Do you know what I mean? You can be like spanking Wigan 5-0, do you know what I mean? Or something, so it's just, it kind of depends what it is.
Or beating Crystal Palace with 10 men.
Yeah.
Then, look, let's see how we come out this month. If we can come out in both those competitions and still in second place, then yeah, it's been a great run through. But my worry is, can we fight on 3 fronts? I still don't actually think that our squad is strong and deep and experienced enough to be fighting on 3 fronts. And if you play a weaker team and they go through, great, but at least it gives them the kind of freshness. Whereas I do also understand it from Ole's perspective, and we've had it every time as well. Every time we get a new manager, Van Gaal, Mourinho, they tend to put a lot of importance in the cups because obviously they want to win something. They want something to go by their name in the Manchester United history books, and all of them have done. But it's normally been at the expense of our league form. When Van Gaal won the FA Cup, we didn't get top 4. We ended up 5th that season. When Mourinho won the Europa League, he sacrificed the league that year. We ended up like 6th or something, but he got in the Champions League in the back door. But each time it's that we can't get both. And my worry is that Ole is trying to go for everything. And we've already seen how our league form has dropped off because he's been going for those cups. Whether he can navigate us through both cup competitions and still maintain that league is going to be the absolute vital question now. And it's to say, 2 weeks this month, 3 weeks with a lot of heavy games coming. Let's see where we rest at the end of this month. But Colm, last pod you said you thought we might fall out by the end of the month. How are you feeling now? We're still going to be in the top 4 by the end of this month?
Maybe just by the end of this month, although I make no promises for April.
No, we're going to be top 4 at the end of this month, that's for sure.
You know what? We should be second. We should be second from here on out. I didn't enjoy Leicester briefly taking us down to 3rd. It made me very uncomfortable, I have to say. So that is my hope that we're just second now. Leicester should just start dropping points.
I just hope today's just a massive confidence boost, because when we recorded last week, Nick, I was a bit uncomfortable just looking at the games, thinking even if we beat, like we didn't win against Palace, but even if we beat Palace, there was a chance other teams were going to really catch us up. If we didn't have the good result today in the barrel of teams catching it right up either level on points or a point behind. So I just think winning that today with a really good performance, getting back into second, putting that bit of space between ourselves, and Chelsea play Everton tomorrow as well. So you're kind of hoping for a draw there anyway to keep that kind of arm's reach away from those two. But I just think that could be a really big confidence boost, despite the fact we do have injuries and we may be worried about how we're going to be approaching certain games and praying that other people don't pick up more injuries over the next 6 weeks or so, because there is a lot of big games. I just think it is a big confidence boost today, and you're hoping that they just take this form, maybe not into the Milan game because we don't know how he's going to line up, but certainly against West Ham, go into that game with a bit of confidence, and hopefully we see the team start to try and take the initiative from the start of games more often, instead of just giving the other team too much of the initiative, and we have to fight really hard to get back into games.
Yeah, and look, and Ole's got to use the squad more, even with the injuries we've got, whether it's Tellez, whether it's Ahmad, give them minutes, Tuanzebe, freshen it up. That's the only way we can possibly get through and still be in all these competitions. I mean, I will say that the stats and betting guys and all are on our side. I did post out on Twitter, if anyone wants to go and have a look at it, that the predicted league table based on form and everything does put us finishing second, and that was even before today's game. Although at the same time, they're saying that it's a 50% chance of us finishing second, so it's the most likely scenario, but by no means nailed on. So yeah, it does show that that's where they're kind of feeling. And just out of interest, that the prediction was saying Chelsea would come third, and that would be literally like a coin toss between Liverpool and Leicester for fourth, but that was before Liverpool have lost again today. So I don't know, I'll have to go and have a look at that predicted league table again and see what they're saying there. But yeah, look, there is going to be a fight, and all the way for the rest of this season. Like I say, Jamie, hopefully this result gives us that impetus to get back on it, because we have had a real lull since going top of the league kind of mid-Jan. The form has not been good at all. But yeah, at the same time, we've progressed in the cups and we're still in second place. So yeah, we still have it all in our hands. But I do always worry that if you start going for everything, you end up with nothing. But it's up to Ole to navigate it through now. We will try and come back after AC Milan. But definitely we will be recording again after West Ham. Do want to give a shout out to our current sponsors, Manscaped. As soon as this pod finishes, head over to manscaped.com. Have a look at their products. They've got the lawn mower, which is all about shaving your pubes. They've got the weed whacker for your nose.
I think people know what the products are for, Nick.
Well, I'm saying, yeah, I'm sure everybody who listens to us knows what all these things are now. But yeah, I'm contractually obliged to talk about this for 30 seconds. So what else have they got, Jamie? Some kind of lotions and potions? I remember you saying they were pretty good.
Oh yeah, all sorts of moisturisers, fragrances.
I always forget what they're called, because they do come up with pretty good names for these things. Crop preserver or something like that.
Yeah, one's a crop preserver, yeah, and I do highly recommend that one myself.
Anyway, like I say, head out manscaped.com, code United Hour, 20% off. Check it out, and yeah, as usual, hit us up, Twitter, Facebook. Dave in Canada still doing a good job on growing the Instagram, or yeah, the discussion over on Red Cafe. I think, yeah, that's all for this week, and yeah, we'll see you back maybe after Milan, but definitely after West Ham. Good night from me.
Cheerio.
Good night, troops.